Okay, welcome everybody to our first PD session of the 2025 academic year. My name is Casey Reimer, and I am the PD chair for DCD, which, to remind everybody, is the Division of Communication, Language, and Deaf or Hard of Hearing. And so, thank you so much for joining us. And we have a fantastic presentation today by a teacher of the deaf, Angie Armando. And unfortunately, her colleague is under the weather, but Angie is absolutely fantastic. And she is going to be talking with us today about transition planning and student-led IEPs. And so we are going to hold our questions till the end, but feel free to put them in the chat so we can have a running list of them. And I will be checking the questions. So if there are some that are time sensitive, I will let Angie know. So thank you again all for joining us. And Angie, I will let you have the floor. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Excuse me. My name is, like she said, my name is Angie Armando. I'm a teacher of the deaf in St. Louis County. I teach at the high school level. So I have a lot of experience working with students transitioning from out of school to adult life. Um, like Casey had mentioned, my coworker, Danny Wilhite, usually does this presentation with me, but she is horribly sick right now. So I'm going to go through and do this by myself. I'm a little nervous. I have never done it by myself, so please bear with me. Um, as you can see, I will get this PowerPoint out to you somehow through Casey or Nick, get everyone the slides. So if you have any questions, you can email me. My email address is right there. So today, our agenda, we're going to look at our purpose, why we do it, our baseline knowledge, self-advocacy. We're going to talk a little bit about executive functioning because it plays a huge role in this piece going to the work world. Um, then we're going to talk specifically about what we use in our district, student-led IEPs slash charting the life course. And that is the title of it. There are links embedded so you guys can get all the pages and everything for that if you want them. We'll talk a little bit about the transition assessments because they are required. I'm taking out the scenario practice. I'm sorry. I don't think we're going to have enough time for it. If we do, I can throw those out there for you. And then additional resources, tons and tons of links for you guys to be able to access. And then, like Casey said at the end, if we have time, I will answer some questions that you guys might have. So the purpose, we're going to look at some of the words that we use often with our students, the vocabulary, things like that. Our district is starting to align more with this student-led IEPs and transition planning. So we really are looking at the students from elementary school starting to learn about what transition is so that when they get to the high school level, we are not playing catch up. The kids already have a foundation of what this means and they're prepared for all the work that goes into it. The importance of self-advocacy, as most teachers know, that's one of the main things we do at the high school level. We focus a lot on kids being able to self-advocate. In tandem with that is executive functioning. That's going to help us navigate what type of jobs or what type of careers work will best fit that student. That's an important part of it. Then the transition planning piece, the assessments and resource sharing. So As you can see on the slide, these are the vocabulary that we kind of need to make sure we have an understanding of. Soft skills. What does soft skills mean? I've got a link here with all kinds of information about soft skills. Basically, the one thing that we notice that is most struggle for our DHH students is the soft skills. They have the hard skills, which is on the slide too, which is the actual ability to do the job. We typically find that our students are very good at performing the work-related tasks. Where we struggle is the soft skills. So that's skills such as getting along with others, managing time, solving problems, mediation between the boss and other coworkers and yourself. Um, you know, as the next we can see, how do we get soft skills? We have to explicitly teach it to the kids. They're not going to just pick it up in the environment. We do lots and lots of role playing, lots and lots of real life situations for the kids that they can kind of work through them and problem solve them. We do have some links here. We have the local regional youth office, transition VR is very important in a lot of the stuff that we do. So that's in here for you guys, as well. Like I said, hard skills is the actual task. Self-determination, that's who am I? What do I want to do with my life? Those are all self-determination. As you can see in the parentheses, we kind of target where we're going to be introducing that skill. Soft skills, hard skills, self-determination, we can be doing that all the way through the education span, I guess, if you will. The Charting the Life course, our district is now wanting us to start this at a very, very young age in elementary school. Years previously, we have really only worked on transition from the age of 16 on. Sometimes we'll start it at 14 if we see the need to. But now the best practices is we start working on this kind of stuff as young as elementary school, and we build and build through that process until they graduate. VR, vocational rehabilitation, we work closely with the office, the organization, to help our students get where they need to go. Because we like to tell our students in high school, when you graduate, I'm done. I will not be going with you. VR then picks up and you will be working with VR. So the good communication skills that you have with me need to be transferred to the VR counselor. We also implement something called pre-employment transition services. This is also something that we really does not start until 14. Someone comes to the school and works with different types of vocational skills with students. And then the last is something that we have established, set up at our school, our program, community-based vocational instruction, CBVI. And I'll talk a little bit about what that is. But basically, it's when the kids go out into the community and learn work skills. Both hard and soft skills are included in that. Let's move on. So we are focusing, obviously, we are always focusing. Hold on one second. I need to pin the interpreter here. The interpreter not on my screen. I'm sorry, hold on one second. I can't find. I can't find the interpreter, but it's okay. We'll figure it out. I'm going to just keep going. Skills focused that, as you can see on the slide, we talk, obviously academics does not go away just because we're working on work. The reading, the writing, and the math skills are lifelong skills that all of them will need long after they graduate from high school. We focus a lot on vocabulary, language, syntax, and we do this using both ASL and the English language. LSL. So that's there. Social skills are so important. Problem solving, pragmatics, that kind of thing. Then advocacy. The three areas that we like to focus on in our school are culture, communication, repair, and then the other one is devices. Do they know how to do they know how to advocate for what they need using their devices and their communication assistance? Then self-determination, like I said, and then soft skills. So we'll start here with self-advocacy. Um, Self-advocacy, I have found in my experience to be probably the biggest predictor of how students will be successful after they graduate. Do they know what they need? Do they know how to get what they need? Most of our students, in our program at least, have been with us in the special education setting since the age of 3. So they're really used to somebody doing a lot of that for them. In middle school, starting really should be in elementary school, but really in middle school and definitely in high school, we start looking at what are you going to do? How are you going to advocate for yourself? What's the solution to that problem when your hearing aid is broken? Things like that. So I put the link here I can't find the interpreter, Casey. I'm sorry. I don't know where.
So, yeah, so that's why I came
I'm like,
on.
I don't even.
No, so along the bottom of your Zoom, you should see it looks like a globe, and this is for everybody here. There should be a
The
globe and it says
participants.
interpretation. Do you see it next to AI companion, next to more at the bottom of your Zoom?
Show me. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. I don't
So,
want to take up too much time worrying about that, but
right, I just want to let everybody know that they have the ability to pull up the interpreter at the bottom of the Zoom, it should go share and then host tools, AI companion interpretation as an option to click on. So if you are having any problems finding it, please let us know. Yep. Nick just put that in the
I changed my
Zoom
view.
chat as well. You could, Tanya said that they had to click the three dots and then they were able to find it. And Melissa said the same thing under more, the three dots, then the option came up for sign language interpreter or interpretation.
Okay. All right. So I'm just like,
And one more thing, you can go to the participants log and find the person you want, and you should be able to pin them. And so Allison, our
that's what I'm
interpreter,
trying to do right now. And I have
okay,
it.
I'm going to try to make Allison a co-host and see if that
I have
helps
him
that
pinned,
option.
but he's not. He's not coming up. There. Um, what's happening?
There we
We
go.
move up to. There you
So
go. Now I
now,
have Allison. Okay.
and now, so I'm going to make Allison and Teddy, our interpreters, co-hosts. So that way, if you are having a trouble finding the interpretation option, then you can select them and pin them as a trade-off halfway through.
I pinned him on the
Um,
participation list, but he didn't pop up after I pinned him, so I don't know.
well, no problem. We'll go from here. It
That's
looks like we
fine.
got Allison back on there. For
And
you,
I think
Angie,
it'll be
right?
fine because just for the question and answer at the end is where I'll probably need it the most. So
Perfect. Sorry, you're doing great. Please keep going. I
sorry.
apologize. Yep,
Thank
you're
you.
good. I want to make sure it's good for the recording too. So thank you all.
Oh. So I have a link here describing a little bit more in depth what self-advocacy is here. And this is specific, obviously, the hands and voices um, for our DHH students. This is a really good resource for everyone to have. And as you can see, these are, oh, excuse me, I want to, I'm gonna get back. So. Talk a little bit more about these. We do use a self-advocacy checklist in our district. It's just a really long compiled list of skills. We mark if the student is emerging, proficient, or not yet addressed. And I think it may be on the links at the back. We discuss daily living, self-advocacy. Do they know how to cook? That's something that we discuss at length with students. If you want to live independently, you have to be able to cook. You have to be able to do your own laundry. Do you know how to do that? Do you know how to, maintain a house or an apartment on your own? So those are all very, very important stuff. Do you know who to call when those things are not happening or when there's problems with those things? So that's another big piece of our puzzle that we talk about. Personal and social skills, job readiness. What are the things we need to get a job? You don't just snap your fingers and you get a job. There is a process that you have to go through to get that job. We do a lot of working on creating resumes, filling out job applications, just mock ones, fake ones. We do interviewing skills with the kids where they go in and they interview using an interpreter if they use an interpreter, or what kinds of questions would they ask you in a job interview? And then industry standards. This is an important one right here, I feel, for my students because, and I'm hoping things will change as we start using a more comprehensive transition plan with kids. But kids come in high school as freshmen and okay, so what kind of job do you want when you get to be, an adult or you leave high school? I want to be a professional basketball player. Okay, great. Do you play basketball right now? Oh, no. So it's about being realistic and, what we, like to do versus what we have the ability to do, what we have the aptitude to do. That was kind of a far out there example. It happens a lot more than you think. But the industry standards can help us. Oh, I want to be an architect. Okay, what kinds of things do we need to be able to do as an architect? Oh, I'm not really good at math. Well, maybe we need to think about that because as we know, being an architect requires us to do a lot of math. So it's giving them the knowledge of what, other things in the industry standards that are jumping out at me is like, I want to own my own business. Being self-employed is not the same as having a competitive job, in the work world with, all the things that go into that. So it really does break down the different types of work, the different types of skills for each work, and some of the competencies the kids need to be able to do certain jobs. The next piece is the piece that I think is probably the most important, soft skills. I know everybody's probably heard of the iceberg model that I have up here. When we look at job readiness, job skills, it's the top part of the iceberg is what we all see. Oh, they're a really good worker, they can get the task done. When we look at just hard skills, they should be able to keep that job. But it's the things underneath on the bottom of the iceberg are the things that really impact our students' ability to keep that job long term. And that's the soft skills piece, adaptability, problem solving, having an open mind, working together as a team. Those are all the things, like I said before, that can really, really impact how well they do in their job. Go on to the next one. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but executive functioning, as you know, impacts our mind planning, how we organize things in our mind. And as you can imagine, it is greatly needed for holding a job. Just a couple of things. These links are talking more about definitions, which it's just a doc that we created with all of the vocabulary that goes into executive functioning, which we know is being brought to our attention more and more in this field. Right now I'm showing you guys the link for a checklist on executive functioning. As you can see, you know, I do not necessarily make a goal regarding executive functioning, but there have been times that I've had to create IEP goals based on executive functioning because it was so severely impacted that it would not be possible for that student to move on after graduation without it. Let's see, I'm kind of skipping through some of these here. So as you can see, analyzing and planning concepts. This is a really good resource as well. And then these you see organization, planning, time management, working memory. Those are all components that are affected by, that will affect the student's ability to have a job, hold a job. So I encourage you to look over those. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time discussing each one. And next, student-led IEPs. This is where we're kind of moving into a new phase in our district as far as how we do this. It is formerly what it was the teacher of the deaf would go to the IEP meetings and talk about all of these things that was interviewed or talked about with the student. Now we're gradually releasing that responsibility onto the student so that by the time they are senior, they are mostly able to lead most of the IEP themselves. You know, and that's the greatest indicator of self-advocacy right there. If they can talk about their IEP, they can talk about their needs and what they want, then we know, okay, they're ready to self-advocate, they're ready to go out into the work world. But as you can see, excuse me, at the very youngest age, we're we're pretty much teacher-led at this point. Parents have a strong say at this point. The students give a little bit of input. It might be kind of just something. What are thinking about the idea that you will have work, you will have a job. As they get a little older, we start doing more of the forms that I'm going to show you here in a minute on the Charting the Life course. And then middle school is really where we really want the kids to start getting up and talking about what they want for their future. Right now at our middle school, most of the students are actually creating slides, a slideshow presentation, and getting up and talking a little bit about what they want to do and what their goals are, which I think is fabulous. Because as we know, by law, we have to start the actual piece of transitioning by the time they're 16. If all of this has being done all along, by the time they get to that part, it should be easy. We should be a little bit more able to get and navigate different paths for them. As you can see down here, they have to be part of their IEP meeting. They are not excused. So once they turn 16, they have to be there. I require my students to stay for the entire meeting. That's not necessarily required, but they should have a say or, be a part of every decision being made in their IEP at that point. So these are the Charting the Life forms that we have links for at the end. You guys, it's a free access to all of this stuff. You don't have to pay for any of it. This is just the at a glance form. This just kind of captures a little bit about the students, a little about what they want. What's important to the student. And then on the second side, you can kind of see where we want to put it in the IEP, all the way over to the right. So the kids sit down with us, the teachers, and it's really easy. We go through each one of these, we discuss, we expand. And down here, what's important to, what are we considering down here? How to best support me, I guess it's not really up there very well right now, but that's usually something we kind of look at later. They're not quite sure yet when they're younger, when they're middle school, early elementary. So it's just a gradual progression of that information. I like to say this at the beginning of my IEP meetings when they get to the transition. Because the way we do it, we have to start with transition when they turn 16. That's how the IEP, because everything builds off of what they want and the direction they want to go with their lives. So I like to call it's a celebration. And the kids really love that. Parents like hearing that because I feel like sometimes parents hear a lot of what their child's not doing, what are their deficits, where it doesn't really have a very positive spin, a positive light. But when we turn it around and we talk about, we're going to celebrate their strengths, we're going to celebrate their skills, using this concept. Everyone just seems to really enjoy that a lot more. It's a more positive experience for everybody. So as you can see, this is the other form I had up there, what they like and admire. And the kids get to talk about themselves. I mean, who doesn't like to talk about themselves, especially when you're a teenager? People like and admire about me. So, and sometimes this takes a little bit of pulling out, they don't really have anything good to say about themselves. That's telling us something right there. What is important to me, what kinds of things, and it really helps them think, oh yeah, I want to be, I want to be able to get myself to places. I want to be able to do the things that I enjoy. And then down here, how to best support me. I see you now, Teddy. Thank you. This is another slide that we use on the Charting the Life. We talk about past life experiences. So kinds of some of the things that you did enjoy in the past. I played for this particular student, playing sports, swimming at the YMCA, and reading at the library, going to the library and reading clubs. Down at the bottom, this is where we're talking about things we do not want to happen. So that kind of like, oh, we want to avoid these things from happening. So, we can use these to present to the student, okay, you want to do this but you don't want that to happen. So maybe this is not the best way to go about, that career. Maybe we need to look at a different career for that. Refusing to follow directions, not asking for help. So these are some of the things that they had done in the past that they did not want happening again. So these are kinds of things that we want to keep doing moving forward. Things that they see themselves wanting to be involved in. Things that they like, things that help them. And again, down at the bottom, we have things that we do not want, that were not good. And then what we really do is we just condense all of those into the top, the vision. And then at the bottom, again, things we don't like, things we don't want and I guess the difference between the two sides is on the right side, we're looking at that vision of a good life. What in your mind would make your life good? Versus at the bottom, what are things that would make your life not good, or things that would not make you happy? So using all of this is really, really awesome to help kids see that big picture. Oh, sorry. Trying to get to the next one. There we go. We also want the parents to be involved in this, even at the age of 16, 17, 18, because especially the students that have severe impairments, maybe not just DHH, or maybe they have severe language deprivation. We know that the parents are the ones that are going to have to follow through with their child on making these dreams become a reality. So the parents' vision, what do the parents want for their child? It's really also good to compare the two. We did all of this with the student, what the student wants. And then we have a separate thing for the parents to talk about what they want for their child. It's very interesting when they're not the same, or when they're completely different from each other. I think sometimes it gives parents a wake-up call, like, you're the kid saying that they don't want to go to college, they want to get a job right away after high school. And then you have the parents saying, oh, well, my child's going to go to a four-year university after high school. That's vastly different, vastly different. So, sitting down and talking about those things, well, you want your child to go to a four-year university, but do they have the skills? Do they have the competencies? Obviously they don't have the desire, because they've already told us in this form right here that they don't want to do that. So it really opens up the conversation for what's realistic. Are parents being realistic about what their child can do or cannot do? So I use this a lot. We typically send this home before the meeting so the parents can bring it back with them. So when we're going through some of the student stuff, the parents can kind of add their feedback as we're going along. But and a lot of times we have parents that just say, I support whatever my child wants. And at that point, okay, yay, that's going to make things easier. But this is a really good tool for parents to kind of know how we're going to go through the information. So, transition assessment. Previously, before we started doing this, our district required that we gave 2 transition assessments to students before we can do the IEP. That's part of the IEP process. Now, because we are using the Charting the Life course, we have now reduced it to One, transition assessment. And of course, when transition assessment goes on, or transition planning happens at 16 and above. So the things we want to look at when we're doing these assessments, we want to look at education and training, employment. Education and training would be, do they want to go to college? Do they want on-the-job training? This even goes into, supported employment is another one we look at for education and training. Then the second one, employment, what type of job do they want? Um, you know, and again, all of this has been done in the Charting the Life. We're just kind of putting it into the IEP as something that we're going to work on. And then the third one is independent living. You know, again, the number of skills that kids need to have to be able to live independently is a lot. Is a lot. For those that have more severe language or more severe cognitive issues, we need to start having conversations about, guardianship, about supported living situations, group homes, things like that. Parents have to understand, is your child going to live with you, forever? Or, is somebody in the family going to be able to, when and if something were to happen to you, the plans for how that's going to look in the future. So all three of these really are targeted, and we have to come up with an action plan for each one of these three areas. The action plan can be something the student does on their own. The action plan can be something that the school, the teacher of the deaf, and the student work on. And it can also be something that the student and the parents are going to be working on. So they don't necessarily all have to be done at school. A good example of that is when students turn 16, of course, they all want to learn how to drive. Not all of that can be done at school. Like, I can't get into a car and practice the actual physical driving part of the test. We can, though, however, be practicing and going over the written part. So that's, getting their permit would be an action plan for independent living that we would definitely implement in the school. But again, parents need to understand and be aware, we cannot take them to the DMV to take that test. We need to make sure that the appropriate accommodations are in place. Do the students know what those are? Do the parents know what those are? So there's a lot that goes into some of these. So we come up with 1 or 2 action plans under each of those 3 areas. And we have a timeline where they need to be met. It's not like a goal where we have hardcore data. And we do, but we don't have to document it and have it like an IEP goal. But it is there, it is stated in the IEP, and they should be addressed. These are the scenarios. We've only got about 20 minutes left, so I'm just gonna so we have time to answer some questions. I don't know if, but anyway, so additional resources. Right here is the industry standards. I'll kind of look through these with you really quickly because I love them. I think they're great. Competitive self-employment, that's probably the hardest. As you can see, the physical abilities, work preparedness, transferable work skills, interpersonal skills, self-direction. Those are all umbrella terms, all areas that they need to have competencies to be able to do, to have their own business. And this is just competitive employment. Defined as work performed by a person with a disability in an integrated setting at minimum wage or higher at a rate comparable with the disabled workers. So they're going in and they can do everything everybody else can do without very little in the ways of accommodations. Again, we have those same areas and the skills that are needed for each one. They get longer, obviously. Then the next one is supported employment. A lot of our students in our program kind of fall under this. They're going to need some job coaching. They're going to need specific training for that job. So they do require minimal support and then ongoing support services. And then, as you can see right here, this is something that we really hone in on with VR. VR is an integral piece to them getting those supports that they need after they graduate. We'll go through those. Pre-employment programs. These are, we call it in ours as the VR work. Oh my gosh, I just lost it. It's basically a summer work program for the kids. They go in for, I don't know, 6 weeks or so, and they get paid. Some of them are unpaid, non-paid, some of them are paid. But they get the community, I'm sorry, hold on. Yeah, so sorry, I wanted to make sure I was reading it correctly. This would be the kids that continue on to learn job skills. Through our district SST, we do have a program called the Vocational Skills Program. We call it VSP, where the kids are still continuing to learn job skills in a school setting, but not in the school. I know that sounds very weird, but like, for example, we have a program set up at BJC where the students actually get on a bus and they take that bus to the hospital, where inside the hospital they have a classroom where they spend a majority of their day doing the job, but then they have a classroom to help support some of the skills that maybe they still need support with. So they're not technically getting, it's not technically a real job, but it's more of a training type job skills. And then we have shelter workshop, which this is not really being utilized often anywhere really anymore at all. To have them some places, we are advised to kind of not offer this as an option for these are probably for the students that are more severely impacted by the disability. You know, the ones that are not able to they have more cognitive, more physical disabilities. But I'm hearing that there really is no such thing as shelter workshop anymore. So, and then family supported self-employment. This is where the student would actually, the family already has some sort of business set up, and the students are just going into work with their family business, whatever that may be. And again, here we are with the same thing. Day programs, again, typically our DHA students are not using the community-based day programs unless they have some other disability that is impacting their ability to work full-time. Again, and then we have adult daycare. This is more severe for more severely impacted. This is the one I like. Technical school, four-year college, or community college. I think this is where parents need to be very clear about, you know, what skills are necessary for students to go to college. You know, we would be saying for years, the student has had delayed language, delayed reading, low comprehension skills. and we tell them this, and this is not a new thing for parents to, that they have heard this year after year about their child. And then we get to transition, it's my child's going to go to four-year college. The discrepancy in that. This is where I pull this sheet out and was like, okay, can they do these things? Can they, and most of the time it's just, can they navigate a campus? Are they gonna be able to get to one building to the other? Something simple as that. Stamina to sit through lectures that can be up to 3 hours. I don't think many parents realize how much stamina it takes to attend to a college course lecture. So things like this, I think it's very eye-opening for parents, and I think parents really appreciate getting this because it does really break down a lot of those skills. Because of course, parents want to see their child succeed. They want to see their child getting a great job, that they earn, a good living. So those are the industry standards. I think it's awesome. And, I recommend everybody using it if they can. Also, I have on the Deaf Verse, which is created by the National Deaf Center in DC. They have it's basically a life skills game that's kind of set up like a video game where the student kind of moves through a course and makes choices. So it's helping them, with problem solving skills, making choices for their life. Are you going to have enough money? If you make this much, are you going to have enough money to pay for, an apartment, car, all of those things? So I strongly recommend using this and it's the middle school kids use it all the time. They love it too. So again, like I said, National Deaf Center, lots and lots of self-advocacy articles, lots and lots about post-secondary outcomes for deaf students. So I get a lot of my information from this website right here. Transition Tennessee, basically it's just the transition planning and assessments for the next two. ONET was where we had the industry standards are posted. We have a lot of career exploration that you can do on ONET. Let's see if I can. I know we're running out of time, so we'll make it quick. We'll not be able to wiggle. So, find an occupation. Kids can set up and log in, have their own account for this too, I believe, so that they can search different careers and the educational requirements for the career, the salary, and the projected outcome for the career. Is this a career that's going to continue to keep being more in demand and more demand, or are we going to see it kind of go on a downward shift because they don't need those anymore? So this is a really great site to use in the transition process with students. They can visually see what those jobs are like, besides just, oh, I think I want to do that. And then the last one I have here is the Charting the Life. This is the actual website. You can go lifecoursetools.com. And it's not just for DHH students, so it could be used with any student with disabilities or not. But all of the worksheets, they have little videos that show you how it's used. What I do is I get the worksheet or the paper up, and then I save it to my drive, and then I make copies for each of my individual students. So that way I have the documentation, hard on my drive, so I can just pull it up at the IEP meeting and we can talk about it. And more resources. We have DCMP. They have lots and lots of things on transition. They're both in sign and spoken. They have both. These are just some of the the resources, the websites we use. I'm sorry, I'm looking at it. Edpuzzle. If we are showing videos, because YouTube has a plethora of videos on kids and different jobs. NAD has a spotlight videos where they spotlight one individual with a specific job, and they kind of go through and talk about their experience with that job. I will play that video and have students go through and answer just short questions, what they learned from the video. So Edpuzzle is great. Missouri Connections is another transition website. Let me see if I pop this open real quick. And then with links, I wanted to make sure there were links. So assessments that you can be using for each one of the 3 areas of transition: education and training. All right here, employment. And then the third one, independent living. And they also have self-determination here too. So all of these on this last, I know we've only got a couple minutes left. This is the Indiana University talking more about age-appropriate transition planning. So you can choose your domain, the grade level you want to look at, if you need another language, and the disability that the student has. So that's, I believe that's, well, I'm not going to do that, but does anybody have any questions? Casey, do we have any questions in the chat that?
There is a comment from Tanya saying these resources with compiled links are amazing. Thank you so very much. And a question I know we've talked about before, Angie, is you provided so many resources in regards to evaluations, assessments. So how do you figure out which one to use, or how are you, not overwhelmed with, I have so many evaluations to choose from?
And it is the number of resources and the number of transition assessments are overwhelming. The one thing I think, the most important thing I think I look at for myself is their language level. We have assessments that use a high level of language and comprehension for them to be able to answer. And then there are picture inventories that you can use for the lower language students that don't have good comprehension. That's one thing that, will help kind of divvy those out. The other thing is, what kind of information are you looking for? Obviously the three of the groups or categories that we need to focus on, maybe, they're freshmen or they're 8th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. We don't need to worry about that quite yet. We just want to maybe focus on the employment part. Let's just focus on what kind of job is going to be best for them. And then we can kind of add the training piece to that. It used to be where we would only required to add 2 of those focus groups to the IEP. We were not required to do all 3. Now, best practices is we're adding all 3 because independent living, we're seeing that they're not ready. They're not ready to live independently. So we need to be thinking about all 3. So I hope that answers the question for that. It's just picking one you like, the one that the students are most accessible for the student, and then the information that you're looking for. I have the assessments and the information that I like using because it's easy for me to understand and read and to teach. my coworkers have other ones that they like and they use. So I think it's based also on preference um, as well.
Angie, this is Nick. Thank you so much for being here today. First and foremost, while we're chatting here on the question and answer, would you mind putting back your first slide where your email address was there on the screen? I know there's
Yes, absolutely.
Tanya asked about contact information for you. I want to make sure that she's able to get that. But we'll also pass along this information. Angie said that she does not mind sharing this presentation, so we'll be sure to add that to any information that we pass out afterwards. And thank you to Casey for so much for leading this PD and setting it up. Casey has a lot more coming up too in the rest of the year and into next year. And thank you to the interpreters for being here as well. That is extremely important for us as an organization that we are providing access. And we are recording this, and that's why it was important to us, Angie, to try to make sure that we have the interpreters there. So that way, those that can't make it today still have the ability to see your information later on. A few other questions I see. Javier, if you don't mind reaching out to her, I'm sure Angie would love to provide more information about the transition form. We're just short on time here. Um, Resources for severely disabled, nonverbal for deaf students. Oh, so Angie, are any of those resources, oh, you did mention some of those resources are for deaf and hard of hearing and non-deaf and hard of hearing, as well as non-disabled students. Is that correct?
Yes. Um,
Fantastic.
um,
Go ahead.
a lot of these, I think, I mean, if you're looking at severely disabled, you really need, the different type of job. The industry standards is a really good place to start for those students, kind of men, know, okay, they're in a wheelchair. What kind of jobs, would work for those severely, the cognition, that kind of thing. It's not on here. I don't know if we took it out or not, but at our program, we have established a community-based vocational program, which we identify students who do want to go the path of work. They do not want to attend a four-year college or even a community college or a trade school. They want to go right into the work world. I think that's kind of a newer concept that we've started to kind of work with kids on, what, maybe college is not the best place for you to start your journey in the work world. So we take the students that we have identified and we partner with different businesses in the area. So currently our school goes to a restaurant and the students learn how to prep food, how to communicate with the different workers in the kitchen. They work on, job entry, skills, cleaning the tables off, restocking the napkin hold dispensers, things like
Yeah.
that. So just that they're getting out into the world to learn how to work. And we do this with a lot of our severely disabled kids too, as long as they can actually perform the work task.
That's extremely important. I know with my background in transition and deaf and hard of hearing students, the thing I think I always had to remind admin and parents when working with the students is finding goals that are achievable with the skills that they have, challenging but achievable. And I know we always want to push more for our students in these areas of transition. And then lastly, Tanya wanted to say thank you for breaking down the IDEA sections of employment, education, and independent living. She wanted to say that meant a lot to her. So we are at the end. Thank you everyone who showed up today. We had a lot of participants. Kind of blew me away. Thank you so much. And again, thank you, Angie Armando, for being here. Casey for setting this up. And lastly, again, to our interpreters, Teddy and Allison. So, um, Casey, last few seconds, anything you need?
We just to be on the lookout for a copy of Angie's presentation, as well as you will receive a certificate of attendance to this meeting in the next few weeks. So thank you all, and please be on the lookout for our future PDs. The next one is coming in October, and we will be talking about cued American English or cued speech for literacy development. So thank you all so much.
And that's our hour. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Angie, if you don't mind hanging out for a minute.